This is Everyday Tension. Real stories based on real experiences about everyday conflicts people rarely talk about. This story was shared anonymously. If you'd like, you can support the channel by liking or subscribing and let me know in the comments where you're listening from. Here's what happened.
I always knew things would come to a head. I just thought there'd be more time. That's what I keep coming back to. I figured we had a few more years of this. A few more years of the slow simmer, of managing his mother, of showing up for his siblings, of biting my tongue until it felt numb. I thought the breaking point was way off in the distance, somewhere past another 5 evictions, another 10 maxed out credit cards, another 100 awkward, endless family Sundays. I was wrong. It started with his mom, of course. It always does. My husband, let's call him Ben, is the oldest. His mom had him young. She's never been stable. The first time we had to help her move was about 3 years into our relationship. She was being evicted from a little apartment complex near the highway. She said it was the landlord's fault, that he was prejudiced. Ben asked to see the notices. They were for non-payment, going back 8 months. She cried. She said she was being targeted. We packed her things into a U-Haul. I spent the day wrapping her dishes in newspaper, the kind that leaves black smudges on your fingers. She had so many knickknacks, ceramic cats, plates with painted roses. I remember thinking, who needs this many things when you can't pay rent? We found her a new place. It was a ground floor apartment in a slightly better complex. Ben co-signed the lease. I didn't like it, but I didn't say anything. What are you supposed to say? Your mom is a sinking ship and you're tying yourself to her? He said it would just be for 6 months, until she got back on her feet. She lost her job at a call center 2 months later. She said her manager had it out for her. The rent was late again. Ben covered it. He said it was just this once. The second eviction was a year after that. This time she didn't tell us until the sheriff's notice was taped to her door. We got a panicked call on a Tuesday evening. She was sobbing so hard she could barely breathe. Ben left dinner on the table and went over. I stayed behind. I did the dishes. I scrubbed the pan he'd used to make chicken, scraping at the bit stuck to the bottom. I remember the sound of the sponge on the metal. It was a loud, grating sound. I scrubbed harder than I needed to. That move was worse. It was winter. It was sleeting. We moved her into a storage unit and she stayed on our couch for 3 weeks. 3 weeks of her watching daytime TV at full volume, of her smoking on our back porch and tossing the butts into the dead flower bed, of her sighing dramatically every time she had to get up. She never offered to cook. She never offered to clean. She'd just say, "You kids have such a nice life here," in a voice that made it sound like an accusation. It was during that stay that we found out about the credit cards. Ben got an alert from his credit monitoring service. Someone had applied for a card in his name, then another. Both were approved. Small limits, but they were maxed out already. Cash advances. He confronted her in our living room. I was in the kitchen, pretending to organize the pantry. I could hear everything. She didn't deny it. She just started crying again. She said she was desperate. She said she was going to pay it back. She said he was her son. How could he be so cruel? He stood there, his shoulders slumped. He just said, "Mom, you stole my identity." He sounded tired, more tired than angry. He paid off the cards. He put a freeze on his credit. She moved out a week later, into a room she rented from a friend of a friend. We didn't co-sign anything that time. Through all of this, his siblings were around, but they weren't there. He has a brother, Mark, and a sister, Lisa. They're both younger. They'd call sometimes, ask how Mom was. Ben would explain the situation, the evictions, the money. They'd say, "That's rough, man." Then they'd change the subject. They lived closer to her than we did, but we were always the ones getting the calls. We were always the ones who had to handle it. I didn't mind, not exactly. Ben is a fixer. It's who he is. And I loved him, so I helped. I'd look up low-income housing applications. I'd find phone numbers for social services. I'd sit with her at the kitchen table and help her fill out forms. She'd get frustrated and push the papers away. "It's too complicated," she'd say. I'd patiently pull them back. "We just have to finish this section," I'd say. My voice was always calm. Inside, I was screaming. I tried with his siblings. I really did. Lisa has 2 kids. For every birthday, every Christmas, I'd find thoughtful gifts. Not just toys. Books they were into. Tickets to a kid's science museum. A nice jacket I saw on sale. I'd wrap them carefully. I remember one time, Lisa was going through a bad breakup. She called Ben, crying. He was at work. I talked to her for an hour. I just listened. She said I was easier to talk to than her own friends. I felt good about that. I felt like maybe I was becoming a real part of the family. Mark is into sports. We'd go to his softball games. We'd sit in fold-out chairs and cheer. One Sunday, after a family dinner at his place, his toilet clogged, overflowed. It was a mess. Everyone else was hanging out in the living room laughing. I rolled up my sleeves, found a plunger, and fixed it. My arm ached afterwards. Mark slapped me on the back and said, "Thanks, man." I felt useful. Family holidays were always at one of their houses. Always. For 7 years, I spent every Thanksgiving, every Christmas Eve, every Easter with Ben's family. My family lives a 3-hour flight away. My parents never complained. They'd say, "We'll see you when we see you." They'd send a care package at Christmas. They understood that Ben's family was needier. I missed my mom's stuffing. I missed my dad falling asleep in his armchair after dinner. I'd call them from the bathroom sometimes during a lull at Ben's family's event, just to hear their voices. "It's loud here," I'd whisper. "I miss you." They'd always tell me they loved me and to have fun. The events themselves were marathons. They'd start at noon and go until midnight. So much food, so much loud talking over each other, so much TV blaring in the background. I'd smile until my face hurt. I'd help with the dishes. I'd play with the kids. After about 6 hours, I'd be exhausted. My social battery isn't just drained, it's shattered. I have a chronic condition, fibromyalgia. The pain is real. The fatigue is real. After hours of being on, the pain would flare up, a deep ache in my back and shoulders. I'd get a headache from the noise. I'd find Ben and say quietly, "I'm getting really tired. I'm ready to go when you are." He'd nod, but he'd never be ready. He'd want another beer. He'd want to watch the end of the game. He'd get into a conversation with his brother. So I started saying, "You know what? You stay. I can get an Uber." I meant it. I didn't want to drag him away. He's entitled to time with his family. He'd usually say no. He'd come with me. But sometimes he'd stay. I'd ride home alone in the back of a car, leaning my head against the window, watching the streetlights blur past. I didn't resent him for it. I thought I was being a good partner, supportive, understanding. Over the last year, though, Ben started pulling away from them. Not because of me, because of her. His mom. The cycles were getting faster. The crises were getting bigger. She'd call him at work, hysterical. He'd have to leave meetings. His stress was a physical thing in our house. He'd come home, shoulders up near his ears, and just stare at the wall. He stopped calling his siblings back as much. He stopped wanting to go to the Sunday dinners. When they invited us, he'd often say we were busy. We weren't busy. We were on the couch, watching reruns, because that's all the energy he had. I know they noticed. I know they talked about it. But they never called to asking, "Hey, are you okay?" They'd just get annoyed that he wasn't showing up. The idea of moving started small. My parents are getting older. My dad had a minor heart scare last year. Nothing major, but it shook me. They live in a quiet town in the mountains. We visited a lot. We love it there. The air smells like pine. It's quiet. My parents are easy. They're happy to see us, happy to feed us, and happy to let us be. There's no drama. No walking on eggshells. We talk about it sometimes, late at night. "Wouldn't it be nice to live there?" one of us would say. It was a daydream. Then it became a maybe. Then it became a plan. We started looking at real estate listings online. We talked about job possibilities. It felt exciting. It felt like a future we were choosing, not one we were just surviving. We decided to tell his family. We wanted to be upfront. We thought, if we give them plenty of notice, over a year, it'll be easier. We invited everyone over for a barbecue. It was a nice day. I made potato salad. After we ate, Ben cleared his throat. He said we had an announcement. He said we were thinking about moving, maybe in a year or so, to be closer to my family. He said my parents could use the help, and we really loved the area. He was smiling. He was hopeful. The silence was absolute. His mom put her paper plate down. She stared at him. Then she started to cry. Not the hysterical crying, a quiet, devastated crying. She said, "You're abandoning me." Lisa looked down at her hands. Mark took a long drink of his beer. "It's not abandonment, Mom," Ben said. his voice soft. "It's just a move. We'll visit. You can visit us." "You're choosing her family over your own," his mom said, not looking at me. That was the beginning of the end. Or maybe it was just the end finally showing up. The next week, the calls started. Not to Ben, to each other. Lisa called Mark. Mark called his mom. His mom called Lisa. A triangle of grievance. Ben heard about it in bits and pieces. A cryptic text from Mark, "We need to talk." A voicemail from Lisa, "I'm really hurt, Ben." Then the text started coming to Ben directly. They were long. They were angry. They were a list of everything I've ever done wrong, apparently. According to them, I am disrespectful. I never embraced their family. I always looked like I wanted to be somewhere else. I did sometimes. Who doesn't at a 12-hour gathering? I am controlling. I pulled Ben away from events. I decide where we go and what we do. I suggested the move. We decided together. I've offended all of them, somehow, in ways they can't quite specify but know in their hearts. I am pulling him away from them, physically and emotionally. I don't care about his nieces and nephews. I have the gift receipts to prove otherwise. I fake my chronic illness to get out of events. That one stung. It's a pain you can't see. I've cried in the shower from it. To have it called a lie, it took my breath away. And the final one, I never liked their mom. On that, they are correct. I do not like her. I have tried. For years, I have tried. But you cannot like someone who causes the person you love so much pain. You cannot like someone who takes and takes and takes and then cries victim. Respect. I've shown her more respect than she's ever shown her own son. Like? No. I do not like her. The ultimatum came through Lisa. She said if Ben moves, their relationship with him is basically over. They'll consider it, him choosing me over them, for good. Ben was devastated. He cried. He doesn't cry often. He sat at our kitchen table with his head in his hands. "They think you're this monster," he said. "They don't know you at all. They don't know us." I felt numb. All those years. All those toilets unclogged, those gifts given, those hours listened, those forms filled out. All for nothing. It was like pouring water into a bucket with a huge hole in the bottom. You pour, and the bucket is always empty. Ben wanted to fix it. He's a fixer. He insisted on meeting with them. Lisa and Mark refused to say any of this over the phone or text. They said it had to be in person. They demanded a meeting to clear the air. Ben agreed. He's going over to Mark's house next Saturday. He says he's going to stand up for us. For me. I told him not to bother. I said, "They've shown you who they are. They've shown me who they are. They're all just no's to me now." He just shook his head. He said he had to try. He said they're his family. He has a tender heart. It's why I love him. And it's why this is killing him. So, he'll go. He'll sit in his brother's living room and listen to a list of my supposed crimes. He'll try to explain. They won't listen. They've already decided. I know how this goes. I'm not even angry anymore. I'm just tired. A deep, bone-level tired. But here's the silver lining, the thing I'm clinging to. The holidays. I am not going to Thanksgiving at Lisa's this year. I am not spending 12 hours forcing a smile through a fibro flare. I am not listening to his mom play the martyr. I am not making polite conversation with people who think I'm a lying, controlling witch. Instead, I booked a flight. I'm flying out to spend a full week with my parents. A whole week. My mom is already planning the menu. My dad says he's got the firewood ready for the fireplace. They ask about Ben. They love Ben. But they understand why he feels he has to stay. They don't judge him. They just tell me to give in their love. And Christmas. Christmas is the real victory. Ben will go to his family's thing. He wants time with them, as awful as they're being, because he thinks it might be the last one. I get that. It makes my heart ache for him, but I get it. I will not be there. My neighbor, Sarah, she's in a similar boat. Her mother-in-law is a piece of work too. A different flavor of difficult, but just as exhausting. Her husband is also going to his family's for Christmas Day, so we made a plan. We are having a fuck our in-laws Christmas movie night. We're going to her place. We're making a ridiculous amount of snacks. Cheese plates, potato chips with dip, cookies from a tube, the kind you just slice and bake, because we're not putting in effort. We got some edibles from a friend who lives in a legal state. We're going to get pleasantly blurred around the edges. I suggested we watch Monster-in-Law. It seems on theme, She said we should also watch The Wreath, because it's about a terrible family. Maybe we'll watch both. Maybe we'll just put on something stupid and laugh until we cry. It's not a big glamorous rebellion. It's just two tired women on a couch, eating junk food, not having to perform for anyone. It sounds like heaven. Ben is supportive. He says, "You should do that. You deserve a nice Christmas." He looks guilty when he says it. He feels responsible. I tell him it's not his fault. It's not my fault either. It just is. He'll go to his sister's house. He'll carry the weight of their disapproval. He'll try to enjoy the kids opening gifts. He'll probably text me a few times. I'll text him back a picture of the cheese plate. We are still moving. The plan is more concrete than ever. Looking at houses online isn't a daydream anymore. It's a mission. Every nasty text from his siblings, every crying voicemail from his mom, it just pushes us further toward that town in the mountains. It's sad that it's anger and hurt fueling this and not just hope, but we're going. Sometimes I lie awake at night and wonder if I missed something. Was there a moment I could have done something different? Should I have pretended to like his mom more? Should I have never offered to take an Uber home? It's a pointless loop. I know I did my best. It just wasn't what they wanted. They wanted someone who would pretend everything was fine. I couldn't do that. The meeting with his siblings is in 2 days. Ben is anxious. He's practicing what he wants to say in the shower. I hear him muttering sometimes. I don't ask about it. He'll tell me how it went when he gets home. I'll make his tea. I'll listen. It will probably be bad. There will probably be yelling. Or worse, cold, quiet dismissal. After that, there's Thanksgiving, then Christmas, then the long process of packing up a life. I think about the future a lot. I think about Christmases at my parents' house. I think about Ben being able to breathe without that constant, low-level dread of his phone ringing. I think about maybe years from now, his siblings realizing what they threw away. Or maybe they never will. That's the hard part. There might not be a moment where they see the light. There might not be an apology. This might just be how it is forever. For now, I'm focusing on the small things. The flight confirmation email in my inbox, the list of snacks Sarah and I are making, the quiet of my parents' house, the look on Ben's face when he talks about the mountains, a little lightness returning to his eyes. It's not a happy ending. It's not an ending at all. It's just a change. A difficult, messy, painful change. But it's ours. And for the first time in a long time, I'm not just going through the motions. I'm making a choice. We're making a choice. And this Christmas, for one night, I'm choosing the couch, the junk food, the dumb movies, and the peace of not being where I'm not wanted. A very Merry Christmas to me.